Am I the jerk for ruining a pregnancy announcement by telling the woman she may have taken the wrong test? My husband and I recently invited 8 friends for lunch and were asked if we could also include a new couple, Doug and Sasha. We have never met them, but everyone who was invited has, so we said sure. At one point, Sasha needed to use the restroom, and I told her to use the master since the other bathroom was occupied. I was helping my husband finish with food when Sasha came out of the master bawling and holding something in her hand. At first, I thought she hurt herself, but she said something to Doug that caused him to drop to his knees, cry, and begin kissing her stomach. All of our friends began screaming, jumping, and crying. It was insane. Finally, Sasha tells my husband and I that she is pregnant. Of course, we congratulate both her and Doug and gave them a bag for their test, their request. I will admit, I did find it odd that she brought a pregnancy test and took it at a complete stranger's house, but I didn't say that. Once everyone sat down to eat, Sasha said, "OP, I hope you don't mind that I used one of your pregnancy tests. I just saw them and had to." I responded, confused, that I don't have pregnancy tests. Sasha says yes, in your drawer. I asked Sasha if she meant the blue box in the back of my lower left drawer that was closed. She seemed to realize that I was pointing out that she basically snooped and sheepishly said the box said pregnancy for pregnancy test. I said, "Sasha, the brand is Pregmates and those are ovulation tests. I do not own pregnancy tests. Did you take an ovulation test?" Doug freaked the absolute F out at me, saying his wife was not an idiot and can read a box. He insisted Sasha get the test out and show me that I'm wrong. Sasha refused, saying she didn't need to prove anything to a complete stranger and insisted they leave immediately. One of the couples thought that Doug and Sasha acted ridiculously. The other 3 couples thought I should have pulled Sasha aside to discuss my concerns and said that I was the jerk for saying something in front of everyone. Honestly, the whole situation caught me off guard and everything happened so quickly. The whole thing was bizarre and confusing. I just didn't have time to put the pieces together mentally before asking about the ovulation tests. Also, I found out later through one of our friends that Sasha did take an ovulation test and she is not pregnant. Okay, there's no way you can be the jerk here. First of all, she was the one that snooped through your stuff in the first place and took your test without asking. Second of all, it's not your fault that she feels completely and utterly embarrassed about taking an ovulation test, thinking it was a pregnancy test, and then also thinking she was pregnant when she actually isn't. I mean, look, it's embarrassing, yes, but it's also extremely sad. Nonetheless, you're not the jerk for this. Now, the good news is that OP has given us an update just a little bit later on. First, let me thank anyone who took the time to read, comment, or give an award. I am very, very grateful for the feedback. Based on the responses, today I called up one of my friends who was present and took Doug and Sasha's side and basically told her I was owed an explanation for what the frick happened. Here is what I found out. Apparently, my friends have known Doug and Sasha for much longer than I realized. This is strange because they never talked about them before this. Doug constantly brings up wanting to have a baby every time they see him. One night, Sasha confided in our friend that Doug divorced his first wife because she was old and infertile. She was the same age as Doug. Doug married Sasha because she was young and fertile. Sasha heard him tell this to some of his friends. At that point, they'd been trying to conceive for over a year, and Sasha was concerned that Doug was going to leave her. They, the women in my friend group, tried to convince Sasha that this is not a healthy relationship, but she insisted she was happy and just needed to get pregnant. They gave her the courage to seek medical assistance, which she'd previously been too scared to do. Sasha ended up getting prescribed fertility meds at her appointment and was scared to test with Doug, so they told her they would come to her house to be with her when she tested and be a support system for her. The day Doug and Sasha were at my house was after Sasha's first round of meds, and she was in the window to test. She'd not planned on testing, but had a light bulb moment when I told her to use my bathroom. Sasha only took the test and didn't steal anything. When the test came back with 2 lines, she was in shock and immediately wanted to share with her husband and support system. Doug was mortified by the ideal, and Doug and Sasha had been fighting a lot. Sasha's been bad-mouthing me to anyone who will listen. She believes I ruined her marriage and embarrassed her and Doug because my husband and I were threatened by them and the friendships they were building. Sasha told my girlfriends they shouldn't spend time with me anymore because who can be friends with someone who treats a guest in their own home that way? My friends felt they had to take Sasha's side in the moment because they knew how important the pregnancy was to her marriage. I am though back on good terms with my friends. Also, yes, my husband and I have been privately trying to get pregnant. I'm annoyed that now my friends are aware. Thank you to my fellow trying to conceivers, past and present, who mentioned this invasion of privacy or gave well wishes. You all touch my heart. So there we go then. I have to agree, it does seem like a bit of a red flag from Doug and not the healthiest relationship to be with somebody and then leave them if they're not able to have a child or they're too old for you or that sort of stuff. Surely you would know that in the first place. I don't really know. I mean, look, obviously children are very important to a lot of people. I get that. But it's just a weird one. The fact that she's like, no, it will be okay. I just need to get pregnant and it will all be sorted out. I guess that kind of explains her reaction and the reason why she did it in the first place. But it doesn't take away from the fact that you are definitely not the jerk in this entire situation, OP. And if anything, her subsequent actions, telling your friends that they shouldn't hang out with you anymore, just makes her look awful. Now, before we get into our next story, I have a very special announcement for you. After an insane amount of demand from you guys, I'm delighted to say that I've released some limited edition Not Today Karen merch. Picture this, you're out and about in the streets and a wild Karen appears and starts confronting you. What do? Well, normally you have to talk to a witch like this. However, get one of these t-shirts or hoodies on and all you have to do is simply point to it, laugh, and walk away. How easy is that? The link is down in the description if you like what you see. Go ahead, check the stuff out. I think they'd make a great Christmas present or even just a little gift for yourself. As always, it's official stuff from the very best supplier, so the quality is unmatched and it's one of the best ways to support me and the channel. With that being said, let's carry on. Am I the jerk for telling my wife it's her own fault for not getting invited on a group trip? Me and my wife have been together for about 6 years. We get along wonderfully and through everything, have never had any major fights except for one thing. I personally feel like my wife makes no effort to get along with my friends. Now, to give context, all my friends and I went to the same university for undergrad, 3 guys and 3 girls that are married. My wife is the only one that didn't have this common trait of attending undergrad between the 8 of us, which is really not a big deal if you ask me. Early on in our relationship, my friends would always try and be friendly to her and talk to her when we'd mutually hang out. My wife was cordial, but you could tell that she was uncomfortable. I would speak with her about this, and she would always comment that she was an outsider to all of us. This always personally made me slightly miffed, because I felt that my friends always made an effort to include her and make sure that she wasn't singled out. Throughout the years, my wife would attend events with me, but would seem distant and would sometimes skip group events to hang with her college friends if she had something else planned. My friends never said anything, but were always nice and treated her kindly. Well, this week I got a group text from my friends about planning a group vacation to somewhere next year. I quickly noticed that my wife wasn't on the group text and I asked about it. I got a call from one of my friends who basically said that they didn't invite my wife because, 1, based on all the previous interactions, they didn't think she'd want to attend, and 2, even if she did want to attend, her attitude is bad and they don't want it to ruin the vacation. I thanked my friend for his honesty and told him I'd think about it. And while I love my wife, I figured she more than likely wouldn't want to go on a vacation with them. So I told my wife about the trip and she asked about details. I told her that while I was invited, she wasn't. And it wasn't because of anything she did, but because they thought she wouldn't want to attend. Well, this statement just seemed to make her go off about how she's an outsider. She said that because of the history us 7 had together, she had no chance of ever being a part of the group. She then went on a rant about how my friends are awful people and that she deserved to be invited even if she didn't want to be there because she's my wife. I sat there and listened to her vent, and then finally I calmly told her that it was pretty much her own fault for not being invited because she'd taken such a hostile stance with them from the get-go. She became a self-fulfilling prophecy about being an outsider. That's paraphrasing, but something along those lines. She left the house and went to her mother's. I haven't spoken to her in several days despite texts and phone calls to try and talk to her. I probably should have been more diplomatic about what I said, but I do feel my friends have been treated unfairly. So, am I the jerk? Yeah, interesting one here because I do kind of get it from your perspective, OP. You feel like your wife has never really made an effort and therefore it's kind of on her that she's not been invited. But on the other hand, she is your wife. And I think it seems if it's a couple's vacation, every other partner has been invited, I think, apart from your wife, and you're saying that's fine. I'm not sure it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, clearly the situation isn't ideal with your partner not being great friends with your friends, but like there's a limit, isn't there? When she's not invited to a trip and you say, I'm going, along with all these other couples, and she's the only one not going, yeah, I don't think you should have done that. And as you said, she probably wouldn't want to come anyway and would decline the invitation, and then you can make your own mind up and talk about it together, but the fact that she's not even invited in the first place and everyone else is, yeah, that's tough. I don't really think she's to blame entirely. Am I the jerk for lying to the people who I was babysitting for to get them to come home? I am 15 years old and I babysit to make money. I took a first aid course and a babysitting course. Last weekend, one of my little sister's classmates' parents had a wedding to go to and asked if I would babysit. I asked how late they would need me and if I should pack an overnight bag if they were going to be staying out all night. They said they'd be home by midnight. So I checked with my dad if that was okay because he's my ride. He doesn't want me to be alone in a car with adults that he doesn't know. He said it was, and he was there to pick me up at 11:50. The kids were all asleep and I was watching TV. I texted them at 11 to double check they'd be back in time. The mum texted back, yes. 12:30, they still aren't there. I text again, no answer. I call my dad and he is fuming, not at me. 1 o'clock, I call them, no answer. My dad went and got a coffee at home and came back. He's all calm, not good. He is ready to blow. I texted every 15 minutes, no response. 2:20, I have an idea. I texted them that someone tried to break into their garage, but that the alarm scared them away. They were home drunk in an Uber in 15 minutes. My dad made them pay me for extra time before we left. He told me that I'm not allowed to babysit for them again unless I charge them for an overnight stay. Yesterday at school, I saw the mum when I was picking up my sister after school. She was angry at me for scaring her and her husband, that they'd checked their security cameras and nobody tried to break in. I said sorry the alarm went off, so I called you. She called me a liar, which is fair, but I don't feel bad about what I did. They lied to me first. My mum says I should have just sucked it up, but my dad says that they broke our deal. I kind of feel bad for tricking them into coming home from the party, but they could have told me it was an overnight or texted me that they were going to be late. My dad has brought me an overnight bag before when that's happened. No, absolutely nothing wrong with that, OP. I think that's just what you call a white lie. Like, come on, what else were you going to do here? Just stay the night and then just wait for them to get home? What, have your dad outside forever? No, obviously never going to happen. You had to get them back one way or another. And to be honest, this didn't harm anyone and you were able to leave afterwards. It was the right thing to do. It's just super embarrassing from these guys, honestly. Like, come on, this kid is 15. OP is 15. And you're not even bothering to, like, first of all, give him overnight pay, accept that you're going to be drunk and that's absolutely fine. Secondly, a 15-year-old is messaging you at 2 a.m. and you're ignoring him. That is so poor. Oh my God, I'm just looking through the comments now, as I often do after reading these stories. And apparently they didn't even apologize either to OP, well, both to OP and to his dad at 2:30 a.m. when they came back. They just came back and went to sleep. Unreal.